20 years ago, earning six figures meant something. It meant you had made it. A six-figure salary wasn't just a number. It was a symbol, a milestone, the finish line people spent years chasing. When people imagined someone making $100,000 a year, they pictured a comfortable house, a reliable car, annual vacations, a growing savings account, and most importantly, peace of mind. Six figures meant security. Six figures meant success. Six figures meant freedom. At least, that's what we were told. But today, something strange is happening. People earning $100,000 a year don't feel rich. People earning $150,000 a year don't feel rich. Some people earning $200,000 a year don't feel rich. And if that sounds ridiculous to you, consider this. Millions of high-income earners are still stressed about money. They're still checking their bank accounts before making purchases. They're still worried about unexpected expenses. They're still feeling trapped by monthly payments, rising costs, and the constant pressure to earn more. So what happened? Did everyone suddenly become bad with money? Did inflation destroy the value of a six-figure income? Or is something much deeper going on? Because the truth is, six figures doesn't feel rich anymore. And the reason has less to do with income than most people realize. It starts with a dangerous illusion. The illusion that more money automatically creates more freedom. Most people spend their entire lives chasing a number. They believe that once they reach a certain income level, everything will finally click into place. The stress will disappear, the financial anxiety will fade, life will become easier. But when they finally reach that number, something unexpected happens. The finish line moves. The salary they once dreamed about becomes normal. The income that once felt unimaginable becomes expected. And suddenly, the life they worked so hard to build starts feeling expensive to maintain. Because earning more money doesn't just increase income. For most people, it increases expectations. And expectations are expensive. Think about it. A person making $50,000 a year imagines what life would look like at $100,000. They picture financial freedom. Then they reach $100,000. But instead of feeling wealthy, they upgrade everything. The apartment gets bigger, the car gets newer, the vacations become more expensive, the restaurants become nicer, the subscriptions multiply, the lifestyle expands. And before long, the additional income disappears into additional obligations. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it quietly destroys more financial futures than almost anything else. The dangerous thing about lifestyle inflation is that it doesn't feel irresponsible. Nobody wakes up and decides to become financially trapped. The process happens gradually, one upgrade at a time, one monthly payment at a time, one convenience at a time, until eventually, a person earning twice as much money somehow feels just as financially constrained as before. Not because they failed, but because they allowed their expenses to rise alongside their income. The result is a strange modern phenomenon. People earning more money than previous generations ever dreamed of are still living paycheck to paycheck, not because they lack income, but because they lack margin. And margin is what creates freedom. The difference between a wealthy person and a financially stressed person is not always income. Sometimes it's simply the amount of space between what they earn and what they spend. That's why someone making $70,000 with low expenses can often feel richer than someone making $200,000 buried under obligations. Because financial freedom is not determined by income alone. It's determined by how much of that income actually belongs to you. But lifestyle inflation is only part of the story. There's another force quietly reshaping how people think about wealth. And unlike previous generations, it's following us everywhere. Social media. For most of human history, people compared themselves to a relatively small group. Their neighbors, their coworkers, their friends, their family. Today, people compare themselves to millions of strangers every single day. People scroll through luxury vacations, dream homes, expensive watches, exotic cars, perfectly designed apartments, and carefully curated lifestyles. And after enough exposure, something happens. Normal begins to feel inadequate. A perfectly good life starts looking average. A comfortable income starts feeling small. An affordable house starts feeling disappointing. Comparison quietly changes expectations, and expectations quietly change spending. Because once someone believes their life is not enough, they start buying things to close the gap. Not because they need those things, but because they want the feeling attached to them, the feeling of success, the feeling of status, the feeling of belonging. This is where modern consumer culture becomes incredibly powerful. It doesn't just sell products. It sells identities. It sells lifestyles. It sells emotional solutions to psychological problems. Feeling insecure? Buy this. Feeling behind? Upgrade that. Feeling unhappy? Treat yourself. The message is always the same. Consume more. Feel better. But the feeling never lasts, which means the consumption never stops. And that creates an endless cycle where people spend more money while feeling less satisfied. The irony is that many high-income earners aren't actually poor. They're just surrounded by expectations so extreme that they feel poor by comparison. And comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy gratitude. A person earning 6 figures today may objectively be doing well, but if they're constantly comparing themselves to people making twice as much, they'll still feel behind. This is one of the biggest psychological traps of modern life. The more connected we become, the harder it becomes to feel successful, because there will always be someone richer, someone younger, someone more accomplished, someone with a bigger house, someone with a better lifestyle. The game never ends. Which brings us to another reason 6 figures doesn't feel rich anymore. Housing. For many people, housing is now the largest expense in their entire financial life. But the problem isn't just rising prices, it's rising expectations. Previous generations often viewed homes differently. A house was shelter, a place to raise a family, a place to live. Today, houses have become lifestyle statements. People don't just want a home, they want the dream home, the perfect neighborhood, the perfect kitchen, the perfect office, the perfect backyard, the perfect aesthetic. And while there's nothing wrong with wanting nice things, expectations have become so inflated that many people spend enormous portions of their income chasing a lifestyle image. The result is predictable: higher mortgage payments, higher taxes, higher maintenance costs, higher financial stress. People buy homes expecting freedom and end up purchasing decades of obligations. Again, the issue isn't necessarily income. The issue is the cost of maintaining the lifestyle attached to that income. This pattern repeats everywhere. Cars, clothes, technology, entertainment, food, travel. The standard keeps rising. And as the standard rises, satisfaction becomes harder to reach because the goalposts keep moving. That's the real problem, the moving finish line. At $50,000, people think they'll feel successful at $100,000. At $100,000, they think they'll feel successful at $150,000. At $150,000, they think they'll feel successful at $250,000. At $250,000, they start looking toward $500,000. The destination keeps changing, not because people are greedy, but because human beings adapt incredibly quickly. What once felt extraordinary becomes ordinary. What once felt luxurious becomes expected. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Most people simply call it life. And it's one of the reasons income alone can never create lasting satisfaction. Because satisfaction based purely on external circumstances is temporary. Eventually, every upgrade becomes normal. Every achievement becomes familiar. Every milestone becomes the new baseline. That's why chasing income without changing mindset often leads to disappointment. People assume the next financial milestone will finally bring peace, but peace keeps getting postponed. One promotion away, one raise away, one investment away, one bonus away. Always somewhere in the future. Never here, never now. And while people chase larger numbers, they often ignore a much more important question. How much is enough? Very few people ask themselves this. Because modern culture trains us to pursue more without defining enough. More income, more possessions, more status, more upgrades, more consumption. But without a clear definition of enough, every achievement becomes temporary. The hunger remains, the pressure remains, the chase continues. This is where the entire conversation about wealth starts to change. Because maybe being rich has never been about income. Maybe we've been measuring wealth incorrectly all along. Think about the person earning 6 figures who feels trapped. They have payments, deadlines, financial obligations, constant pressure. Now think about someone earning less, but living below their means. They sleep peacefully. They have savings. They have flexibility. They have options. Which person is actually richer? The answer becomes uncomfortable because wealth is not just about what enters your bank account. It's about how much control you have over your life, control over your time, control over your decisions, control over your future. A person who cannot leave a job because their lifestyle is too expensive isn't free. A person who constantly worries about maintaining appearances isn't free. A person who must continue earning at maximum capacity simply to sustain their current life isn't free. They may be successful, but freedom and success are not always the same thing. And that's perhaps the biggest misunderstanding in modern finance. People spend years trying to look rich while sacrificing the very thing wealth is supposed to provide. Freedom, the ability to say no, the ability to slow down, the ability to choose, the ability to walk away, the ability to sleep peacefully. These things rarely appear in luxury advertisements, yet they are some of the most valuable forms of wealth that exist, which is why the richest people are not necessarily the highest earners. Sometimes they're simply the people who need less. The people who refuse to allow consumer culture to define their identity. The people who understand that happiness and spending are not the same thing. The people who recognize that financial independence often begins with psychological independence. Because before someone escapes debt, they usually need to escape comparison. Before someone builds wealth, they usually need to redefine success. Before someone gains financial freedom, they usually need to stop chasing approval. And perhaps that's the real lesson hidden behind the 6-figure illusion. The problem is not that 6 figures became worthless. The problem is that expectations became endless. People were promised that a certain salary would solve problems that money was never designed to solve. Money can provide comfort. Money can provide security. Money can create opportunities. But money cannot permanently satisfy a person whose definition of success keeps changing. That's why some millionaires still feel behind. And that's why some ordinary people feel incredibly wealthy. One group is chasing a moving target. The other has already decided what enough looks like. And that difference changes everything. So maybe 6 figures doesn't feel rich anymore. Not because the number itself lost all meaning, but because modern life keeps raising the standard, the lifestyle, the expectations, the comparison, the pressure, the definition of success itself. And when the definition of success constantly changes, satisfaction becomes impossible to catch. Maybe the real goal was never earning more. Maybe the real goal was creating a life that requires less. Less comparison, less pressure, less consumption, less dependency. Because at the end of the day, wealth is not about having the biggest paycheck in the room. It's about having enough control over your life that money stops being the center of every decision you make. And in a world where almost everyone is chasing more, that kind of freedom may be the rarest form of wealth left.